To first talk about Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, I will have to talk about my anticipation for this movie. I am a huge fan of the franchise, first of all, and I'm an even bigger fan of Tom Cruise. I absolutely loved Dead Reckoning and I saw it in theaters 3 times and have been waiting for Final Reckoning ever since. And when that first trailer came out, I absolutely lost my goddamn mind. If you know me personally or follow me on any social media, you'd know just how excited I am for this movie. I had seen the trailers countless times and rewatched the entire series in preparation for Final Reckoning, something that I had done 2 years back in preparation for Dead Reckoning. I was very clearly obsessed and I could not wait for what Final Reckoning had to offer. And after having finally watched it, I am so very happy to say that I loved it. It's a lot to process for me right now, given the fact that I just watched it. This has been one of, if not my most anticipated movie of the year, and I'm just overwhelmed. I obviously enjoyed myself, but the film isn't devoid of flaws, so I would like to address them before I get to what I loved about the movie. I'd heard this criticism quite a bit before watching the film, and I'm sad to say that they are right. This film is kind of a mess. In terms of its structure and pacing, it feels much less focused than some of its previous installments. A lot of people have complained about the first hour being a little exhausting to sit through, and while I certainly was far from bored or disinterested throughout any moment of the film, I will agree that the first hour takes a while to get going, simply because of just how much exposition it has. It can get incredibly talkative. Not that that's an issue. I love talkative films when they're done right, but here the exposition dumps can get a little tiresome. I would have loved for the film to slow down a bit and just take some time, showing us how the characters feel about the events that are transpiring. I know that there's no time and the plot has to be running fast, but a little bit of slowing down to show small character moments could have elevated the film, I feel. Plus, one of the staples of these movies that I love is the scene building up to the opening credits. In almost all the films, the scene crescendos to a moment of high tension or comedy, and here it just appears randomly. The scene that plays after the title card happens usually way after the initial scene that had taken place. But here, the scene that plays after the title card happens just after the scene before the title card. So the opening credits feels like it interrupted the pacing of the story, as if they just shoved in the title card in the middle of a scene. This part was genuinely disappointing for me because the scene leading up to the opening credits always builds to a high and releases the tension with the title card. But here it just happens in the middle of an unnecessarily long joke. Some of the world building here feels a little undercooked. There are a few ideas related to the entity's supporters here that just feels too random and underdeveloped. I would have liked to see how this actually came to be without me being told this through expositional dialogue and a few images. Another thing that didn't work for me is the amount of callbacks it has for every Mission Impossible movie. It almost feels like a series' greatest hits montage at times, with just the amount of times it keeps cutting between previous movies. It feels like it's constantly hammering in the point about this being the final installment in the franchise, which did not entirely work for me. That specific part felt like it lacked confidence in its storytelling capability. A character has a change of heart, and that's never properly shown. The antagonist in the form of Gabriel becomes less and less interesting as the film progresses. In trying to fit every idea it has into the movie together, it makes the film lack a sense of cohesion. It is a big ol' bloated mess for sure, but it is an ambitious one at that. Not everything works entirely, but you can really tell that they swung for the fences and reached for the stars, and I respect the hell out of that. Despite that, I still had an absolute blast at the theater, with an enthusiastic audience filling my theater, cheering and celebrating Cruise's insanity. I felt home. When he showed up on screen, the entire hall burst into applause. I felt like I was watching any commercial Indian movie where a big hero just had his entry scene. The stakes have never been higher, and I felt every second of it. Yes, it does have the now cliche world ending stakes, but this movie makes you feel the gravitas of that outcome. The commentary on the dangers of AI and the fears of a global nuclear war are certainly effective. Probably because they are also extremely relevant today. At an age where artificial intelligence is progressing rapidly, unchecked, and nuclear powers are close to instigating war, This film channelizes our fears extremely well, making the world-ending stakes feel dangerously real. The entity works as an antagonist for many reasons, one being the fact that it's not physical. It's such a fascinating concept to me that for an action film, the primary villain is not a tangible person or thing, which really makes you wonder how Ethan can beat it. Another reason why the entity is the perfect foil for Ethan is because he is literally the antithesis of him. Ethan is someone who has empathy for people, be it his own or that of the entire human race, whereas the entity is something that has no feelings. It's cold and robotic, literally. It doesn't care how it achieves its goal. It doesn't care who all die to pay the price of its ultimate goal. Whereas Ethan is someone who will try his best to ensure that no innocent life ends up in the crossfire of his mission, no matter how important. Another thing I love about this movie is that it continues Ethan's characteristic trait of him being an absolute madman. He's not someone who thinks and then takes action. He always acts on instinct and does things before thinking. He's someone who plunges himself into danger without a thought and then figures shit out on the spot, rarely having a plan B. That's why I love these movies. They are built on pure hope. Most of the time, the team split up and they have to do different tasks, and they just have to trust each other and hope that the other person has completed their task so that they can continue with theirs. Plus, Ethan is someone who takes the problems of the world on his shoulders. He feels personally responsible for when anything bad happens in the world. And I love that we see that explode here and how the villains use that to exploit Ethan and make him feel guilty and hurt. He is someone who is selfless, who would rather put his life at risk if it meant saving the lives of others. And this is precisely why I love this character so much. And man, do the action set pieces deliver. They had me at the edge of my seat with my jaw dropped to the floor at the sheer batshit crazy things Tom Cruise committed to doing. He truly is the last movie star and he earned that reputation. Getting to witness that in IMAX most definitely made it one of my favorite movie going experiences this year. My heart was racing like crazy. The two most marketed sequences in the film, the underwater and the biplane sequences, are well worth the hype because they are outstanding set pieces. The former is a scene where it takes its time and slowly builds the stakes, where Ethan does not know what kind of trouble he is getting himself into. And the other is one where the stakes are incredibly obvious. I mean, he is literally hanging off a plane. In both sequences, I felt like I almost forgot to breathe. I was just entirely immersed, and so was the audience, as the hall was filled with pin drop silence. Most of the time, I was just in pure awe of what I was seeing. Seeing Tom Cruise perform death-defying stunts practically is something that I will never get tired of, and it's still something that instills a sense of wonder and amazement within me. Like, how the hell is he doing that? And by the end of the film, I certainly walked out with an immense high. I still need to process whatever I just watched, but I will say that I had an absolute blast at the movies. To be honest, I'm still shaking, reeling from the tremendous amount of anxiety that third act induced me with. And I don't know about you, but that surely is the sign of a damn good Mission Impossible movie. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel. I would love to talk to you about the movie down in the comment section, so feel free to do that. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.